Hello everyone, welcome back to another Genshin Impact video. Today we're going to be talking about the one and only Itto and all of his possible team comps. Itto may have proven himself to be quite the damage dealer, but in all honesty he is highly dependent on his teammates in order to deal consistent damage. And since he does crave as many Geo members as possible in order to build a proper team, many players that don't have a lot of options might end up finding Itto's team comps to be rather restrictive. So we're going to take a good look at his best possible teammates, as well as budget options if you don't already have them. And if you do end up finding this video helpful at all, please feel free to leave me a like and comment down below. I'd really appreciate it since it does help me boost into the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to see more Genshin Impact content from me, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell. Okay, but with all that out of the way, let's get into the video. So who are Itto's absolute best partners? As of recording, it does boil down to 3 units in particular: Gorou, Albedo, and Zhongli. And honestly, this shouldn't be a surprise considering that these are 3 of the best Geo support units in the game. However, despite Zhongli and Albedo both being premier 5 stars, I actually think that it's Gorou that shines as Itto's number 1 support unit. This is mainly because Gorou does offer a defense boost, interruption resistance, and a boost to Geo bonus damage. On top of this, if you are using the Favonius bow with him, he can serve as an energy battery, and at C4 he also becomes a healer, and even though it isn't a lot of healing, it's usually enough to get by so long as you're not dealing with corrosion. And if you're one of those fortunate enough to get him all the way up to C6, then he also provides an additional 40% crit damage to all Geo members, so long as you have 3 Geo members in the team. All of this makes Gorou extremely valuable to any Itto main, and I definitely recommend pairing them up if you do have him. As for Albedo, he does serve as Itto's best energy battery and sub DPS unit, and because he's also a defense scaling unit, he also has excellent synergy with both Itto and Gorou. And although Zhongli might not be a defense scaling character, he's still incredibly valuable considering that he can have 100% uptime on his shield, making it much easier to take full advantage of Geo resonance. Zhongli's shield also provides a 20% shred, giving a much appreciated boost in damage from Geo characters, considering that they don't have access to elemental shred from the Viridescent set. And it's also important to note that Itto does take increased damage during his burst form, so having a shield like Zhongli's is extremely valuable. Ultimately, if you have any of these 3 characters on your account, definitely pair them up with Itto because you're going to get the best results with them. In fact, if you do have all 3 of these characters, this is currently his best in slot meta team, so long as you're not dealing with corrosion. With the combination of Zhongli's shield with Gorou's defense boost, which does decrease the damage that you take, in the grand majority of content you're not going to need a healer, but if you do eventually get Gorou to C4, you can use his additional healing as a security blanket. However, since Albedo and Zhongli are both 5 stars, let's quickly talk about more free-to-play or budget-friendly options. As of recording, the other Geo options that we have for teammates are Geo Traveler, Ningguang, and Noelle. If you do have Zhongli but not Albedo, then I highly recommend going with Geo Traveler. While like Zhongli, they don't have defense scaling, they do serve as an excellent energy battery due to the high amount of elemental particles that they produce, but even more importantly than that is actually their synergy with Zhongli. Because Geo Traveler's burst is considered one Geo construct, you can really take advantage of Zhongli's Geo pulses in order to deal a lot of damage. This is basically free off-field damage while also increasing your crit rate, so honestly, Geo Traveler's a pretty solid pick. However, if you don't have Zhongli and you still need a solid sub DPS, then I actually recommend Ningguang. She's definitely strong enough to be a main DPS in her own right. However, on an Itto team, she'll primarily focus on providing energy for your team through the use of her skill, as well as extra Geo bonus damage. Essentially, any time that Itto is on cooldown, you can bring out Ningguang and she can supplement your damage. As for Noelle, she's gonna serve a slightly different purpose if you decide to use her. If you don't have Zhongli, then Noelle can act as your Geo shield. It's not nearly as reliable as Zhongli's, but at least she can also provide healing if you're in a pinch. The only issue with running Noelle on a team is the fact that she is very energy hungry and kind of ends up fighting for the spotlight whenever she wants to use her burst. So ultimately, you have 2 options. You can either build her for damage so that she can also take onto the field whenever Itto's on cooldown, or you can focus on giving her as much defense as possible just to increase her shield strength, or equip her with the Favonius weapon in order to make sure that you're getting as much energy as possible out of your supports. There is one more Geo unit that I haven't mentioned yet, and that's because she hasn't released yet, but if all the rumors are true, Yunjin might actually be an excellent choice for Itto as well, but we'll be getting our official confirmation on that when the 2.4 livestream eventually drops. And as of right now, those are all of your Geo options. At the very least, you're going to want to have at least one other Geo member so that you can get Geo resonance, but I personally recommend pairing Itto with another 2 to 3 other Geo units so that you can have better synergy and combat any energy issues that you might be facing. But that being said, let's talk about units that you can use in flex spots and can actually help bolster your team. Let's start with the Raiden Shogun. A will essentially fix your energy problems while only taking up 1 slot. Through a combination of her skill and her burst, she's able to funnel energy back into your team, and her constant and consistent electro application also makes it much easier to generate crystallized shield. shields. Even if your Raiden Shogun is only C0 and can't provide a whole lot of damage, just slotting her into a 3-man Geo team is going to make your transitions and rotations a whole lot smoother. However, if you don't have Raiden and you want similar results, you can slot in Fischl for extra damage and fairly consistent electro particles. I do think that Raiden is the better fit for this team, but if you do need Raiden on a separate team, then you can definitely sub in Fischl and she'll get the job done. Next up, you know him, you love him, it's Bennett. Like always, Bennett proves himself to be the jack of all trades, and although Itto does primarily scale off of defense, that doesn't mean that Itto doesn't enjoy the giant attack boost that he gets from Bennett's burst. On top of this, like always, you're going to be getting healing from his burst, and you can also use Bennett to apply pyro to get a couple crystallized shields here and there, and to serve as an energy battery if he has high enough ER. Next up, we have Mona, who actually surprised me on just how good she is in this team comp. Her main selling points are going to be her burst, which increases all damage taken by enemies when afflicted with Omen, the additional taunt that she gives from her skill, as well as fairly decent hydro application for crystallized shields, and her access to the Thrilling Tales book if you want an additional attack buff on your Itto. However, from my personal experience, I actually found a little more success using the Favonius Codex in order to funnel energy back into Mona's burst. It's really going to come down to your builds and stats, and then you're going to have to decide what's more valuable to you. But overall, Mona is actually a very good flex spot unit if you do need a competent damage booster. Moving on, let's talk about everyone's favorite mixologist, Diona. If you aren't already using Diona on a separate team comp, then she actually slots in very well here. This is because she can apply a reliable shield, battery your team if you are using her with the Favonius bow or the Sacrificial bow, she can heal your party with her burst, and if you're using her with the Noblesse set, then you can provide an attack buff to your entire party. Overall, she's a very reliable unit that can provide a lot of utility while only taking up one team slot. Another great healer that you can slot into an Itto team is actually Kokomi. Kokomi is seeing more and more relevance these days, and this team comp is no exception. Kokomi is able to provide off-field hydro application as well as healing. She also has access to the Thrilling Tales of Dragonslayer, and also can provide team-wide buffs if you equip her with the Tenacity of Millilith set. Or you can be like me and go with her new set, the Ocean-Hued Clam, and just go for some extra bubble damage. Either way, Kokomi is extremely reliable on this team comp and is definitely going to make sure that all of your teammates are alive. Alternatively, you can use units like Barbara and Qiqi. It's just for this particular team comp, she's the best at providing off-field support, and therefore I would lean towards her if you do have her. Lastly, and probably the only Anemo character that I would actually recommend on an Itto team is Jean. As you already know, Geo and Anemo don't really mix that well, but luckily Jean doesn't really rely on Swirl in order to deal damage. This means that unlike other Anemo supports, she's able to provide crowd control while still dealing a substantial amount of sub-DPS damage. She also has an incredibly low skill cooldown, meaning that you can rely on her for energy battery, and of course she can also heal your team with her burst. However, if you do decide to go with Jean, then I definitely don't recommend going for the full Viridescent set, and instead you can go for a 2-piece Viridescent, 2-piece Gladiator or Shimenawa set, or if you're not already using a Noblesse set, you can also use that on her to provide a team-wide buff. Either way, Jean is still extremely reliable in most situations, and she surprised me with just how viable she actually is as a flex unit. Two other honorable mentions that I would like to point out are Thoma and Xinyan. While neither of these units really offer that much in terms of damage, they can provide you with fairly consistent shields, and Xinyan even synergizes with Gorou since she does scale off of defense. I don't really think that these units are quite as good as some of the ones that I previously mentioned, but if you already have them or already have them built, then you can go ahead and use them. That's just about it in terms of my recommendations for Itto teams. However, there is one last thing that I want to go over. Like I said, I do highly recommend having at least 3 Geode members on your team, but say that you don't have access to them or don't have them built and you do have other units, then here's my piece of advice for you. If you do decide to go for a double Geo team and then want to add in other elements, then I highly recommend running another element duo. For example, if you wanted to run a double Geo, double Electro team, you could go for something like Fischl and Albedo in order to provide yourself a lot of extra Electro particles. I found that the key to making double Geo work is by making sure that you can battery all of your teammates. By having 2 characters of the same element as your off characters, it makes it a lot easier to make sure that everyone can get their burst up. Other duos that I tried were Bennett and Thoma, and Mona and Xingqiu. All of these double element duos ended up doing fairly well, just not as well as they would be performing on teams where they could rely more on elemental reactions. But ultimately it's up to you and what you have on your account, so I really just recommend doing what's best for you. Anyway, that about covers it for Itto team comps. If you have any other team comps that work well for you, please feel free to leave them down below in the comments so that we can all help each other out. And if you found the video helpful at all, please feel free to leave me a like down below. It does help me boost into the YouTube algorithm and I greatly appreciate it. And if you want to see more Genshin Impact content from me, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell. If you want more information on Itto and my honest review of him at C0, and also his damage with an R1 white blind, feel free to click the link above, and I'll also leave a link down below. But that's about it for now, so until next time, best wishes. Bye!